Hey, George, you're a scientist.
I'm a chemist, yes.
Right, you're a scientist. So, there's been a lot of political turmoil that we're not going to talk about. But a phrase that I've been hearing more recently that I've known for my whole life, but I've just been hearing a lot is like, well, it's a good thing all these bad things are happening out in public because sunlight is the best disinfectant. And they mean it in like a people need to hear about it kind of way. But I have also heard that in literal terms, like, oh, you have, smelly towels, like hang them outside because sunlight is an amazing disinfectant, or like make sure you open the blinds in the bedroom because sunlight's a great disinfectant, and like you got smelly teenagers in there or whatever. So like I yes, smelly teenagers, bedrooms.
Like
I know
vampires.
I know you can do all kinds of crazy things with light as like lasers or like ultraviolet lights where you like bombard things, but I don't know if like just actual honest to god sunlight has those extreme quantities to be useful. So like why would someone say sunlight is the best disinfectant when we have so many chemicals like bleach?
Nice. So darn it, Lions, I am a chemist, not either a physicist or a biologist, because this kind of hits, like the physics is the light part, and then the biology is, but neither of those is chemistry.
Biophysicist?
Yeah. Ooh, that sounds cool. I wish I was that, but I'm not. With my very limited knowledge and very limited expertise, I will attempt to opine to this. So let's start at the top of the hour. What is a disinfectant?
Ooh. Well, I'm about to say it is a thing.
This is one of those words that's like you know what it is, but then when somebody says like, yeah, define that for me, and you're like, it makes the bad things go away.
Yeah. So I'm gonna say it makes the bad things go away, and specifically, I think people would mean like household level bad things. So, bacterias, like molds, maybe viruses if you were like being really optimistic. So like the kinds of things you might say either don't touch that, it's dirty, or like you could see like, ew, there's something growing on that. Like that's the kind of thing that I can imagine an old lady out on the farm throwing open the shutters and being like, sunlight, the greatest disinfectant, because there's something she can see or something that's dirty that she wants the light to wash clean.
Yep. No, actually, sorry, that makes me think of, and I think I might have shared this with you before, but our listeners haven't heard me complain about it, which is I've been rewatching the X-Files with Megan, and at one point, because I mean they're FBI agents and they're doing like they're just doing a scene where they're setting up like what's the weird thing of this week, right? And so they're in like a biology lab with like monkeys and stuff. And one of the things that happens is Mulder walks over to what is a water bath, which I am also kind of sure that they just like got sciencey stuff and like threw it around, like they do a lot of times in Hollywood, which is totally fine, right? And so he opens up the water bath, pulls out a nondescript Erlenmeyer flask with a brown liquid that just says Prometheus on it. That's it, and then just continues to ungloved, no gloved hands, no lab coat, no safety goggles, no nothing. And just like is still casually talking to Scully as he is like, talking about like, I don't know, aliens or something. And then, so I'm like, what? So I literally paused it Megan paused it because I reeled and retched when he did that. And I was like, and Megan's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, oh God, that's so gross. Like, and one of the things I said is I was like, it's not in a chemistry lab, it's gross. In a biology lab, it's horrifying because eventually if you touch like an acid, eventually it runs out of acid, right? Like it does all of its aciding and it stops, right? Biology does the exact opposite. The more materials that are around, it does more biology. And I'm like, is this the start of like how he's patient zero? Like he and he alone is the one who was like stupid enough to do this and became patient zero? And the answer was no, because then he promptly hands it to Dr. Dana Scully, who reaches out with her ungloved hand and handles it. And I'm like, no. Now she should definitely know better, like
he's just some knob, but she's a doctor.
Yeah, he's just some FBI agent. She's like an MD. Like she should know. Like she should have been like Mulder. That's pretty gross. Like put that.
Yeah, she's not even. It's not like she's a doctor of economics. Like she's a medical doctor.
Yeah, exactly. So I say all that to say that I looked up just to make sure I was on the right page. The definition of disinfectant, and interestingly, is it so? A disinfectant is an agent used to disinfect something.
Boo! No, boo. Boo.
Yeah,
You can't use the word in the definition of the term. That's a no-no.
But then to disinfect means to clean something, specifically to destroy bacteria. And I thought that was interesting because, like, it doesn't.
Crap. Because I was going to say, if it was just bacteria, wouldn't that be like an antibacterial?
Antibacterial, right? But, like, it would be an antibacterial that is used to disinfect. So, like, an antibacterial is a noun. It disinfects the verb, you know? But I did think, because in my mind, as I was like, when you said mold, I feel like mold's too big of a thing to really be potentially. I could see somebody making the argument. It's like mold's a big thing, you know? But apparently too small is also a problem, because I would have also assumed it would like destroy viruses as well, as you mentioned. And viruses are much smaller. But no, apparently, according to the Oxford English Dictionary, disinfect is just it's bacteria. Viruses are too small, mold's too big, bacteria. But in general, what we're going to be talking will apply to all of those types of singular or simple multicellular life, right? And there's actually one very critical thing that we'll talk about later, that a quality that they kind of have to have in order to be kind of lumped into things that disinfectants would impact, right? But bacteria for sure, right? Can you think of some examples of disinfectant?
Well, like a household one might be like citrus oil, apple cider vinegar. If you're going heavy duty, you might use like bleach.
Mm-hmm. So interestingly, everything except the last one you listed, you know what they all have in common?
The first two are acids, right?
Yep.
And bleach is a base.
It is, yeah, yep. Which is why you don't mix them together.
Oh no, my apple cider vinegar and bleach cocktails.
But I say all that to say, yeah, no, so absolutely, all of those work. So some examples that I had was I threw up here, because all of those are good, right? Is silver is a good disinfectant, right? Because its positively charged silver ions disrupt cellular processes of bacteria. So basically, and again, this is where me being a chemist and not a biologist starts to become a problem. I don't know which chemical process it is, because there's a whole lot of them that go into making life. But, and this is the thing I think is interesting, is that there is something that silver masquerades as well enough to replace in the process, but it isn't so chemically similar that it can do the thing the cell needs it to do. It can just pretends to be the thing well enough for the cell to think that that's what it is, you know? So,
and like, then the biology doesn't happen and the thing dies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it goes like, oh, wait, you know? Exactly. Another example of a disinfectant is sulfuric acid. You know?
Seems a little bit more aggressive than silver. Like, oh, I have this silver countertop because it's antimicrobial, and I'm going to cover it with sulfuric acid.
Yes. And let's discount the silver for a second. But yes, so sulfuric acid. But I mean, and that's the thing, is that, you know, will it get the job done? You know, real good. As would all of the acids you listed as well. But they are all acids, and they have a problem that we'll get into here in a second. You know, another really good disinfectant? Fire.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I mean, if the goal is kill the bacteria, then yeah, fire. Fire is right? Super good at killing stuff.
It gets the job done. So the question then is why would people lean more towards sunlight than they would towards sulfuric acid or fire?
I'm going to guess the goal is not to kill the bacteria that's causing the zombie plague at all costs, but it's
right.
I still need this thing to be this thing when it is disinfected. Like if you had a tool or a countertop or a piece of clothing or whatever, when it is disinfected, you still need to use the tool, have the countertop, be able to wear the clothing, right? If you put your dirty t-shirt into a bucket of sulfuric acid,
you get t-shirt soup, but you do kill the bacteria. And I think that that's a critical point, right? And that's the thing, right? Is that the sunlight is
I'm sorry, I need to interrupt you for just a second. You know, here we are in this charming cafe having this casual conversation. If we did,
is Mike ever going to come by with our coffees?
We've been waiting all this time. If we did like funny podcast titles for the episodes, this one would no question be called T-shirt soup. No question.
Yep, good old the good old T-shirt soup. But so to your point, right, is that the problem, it's the same thing with like trying to remove flies from a windshield or from the paint on your car, where the problem is the fly is made out of organic soup, and the wax on your car is made out of kind of organic soup, right? So if you remove the fly, you might remove the wax. So the thing is always threading the needle so that way it destroys only the thing you want it to destroy. I still remember to this day how deeply heartbroken I was that rat poison is people poison, you know? Like, it's just... because I thought it was poison for rats, right? It's rat poison, you know? And it's just like, no, it'll kill anything. And it's just like, well, then what? Then why call it rat? Just call it poison. It's just poison, you know? Don't put it into a box. So yeah,
that poison can kill anyone it wants.
Yeah, it is a strong, independent poison. It can kill whoever it wants. So that's one of the advantages to sunlight in this case, or something like that, is that you want to find something that will kill the bacteria and not destroy the thing that you're working with, right? So now let's take a step back. What is sunlight?
I guess
if you say light from the sun, I'm going to go back to you can't use the word.
Yeah, you're breaking your own rule. It's electromagnetic radiation, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Nailed it. Got it in one. Yes, it is not only EM radiation, it is broad spectrum EM radiation. It emits everything from radio waves all the way up to X-rays. So
that's kind of cool. I feel like I knew stars could emit X-rays. I don't think I ever thought about the sun emitting X-rays, but the sun's a star. The sun can do star stuff.
Yep. And why? So to your point, right, is that X-rays, you know, typically when you get an X-ray done, they put a big giant metal vest on you, and we don't have to wear that when we go outside. So, want to venture a guess as to why?
I'm gonna say either the intensity of the X-rays coming from the sun are not enough to be problematic, or I think more likely is that it gets absorbed or reflected or scattered by the atmosphere.
Yep, absorb. Yep. So second one gets the square, and also to our electromagnetic our magnetosphere helps deflect a lot of that as well. You know.
Wait, yes, I did know that it was the atmosphere, because when you were in a plane, they said for a while, they were like, oh, if you fly a lot, you're getting like all these X-rays. And it's like, no, have you ever gotten dental X-rays? That's like the equivalent of like 1,000 flights worth of X-rays. Yep. Like, you are not going to die from X-rays in a plane.
Yeah. No. And actually, two things on that. One is, the nice thing is that the dose that you get, the radiation dose that you get from flying, is incredibly low. And we use that as a barometer for whether or not somebody got dosed in a level that they should care about, you know? So like, because I've worked in radiochemistry labs, and people be like, oh, is it okay for me to work with this? And we everybody would wear a dosimeter, right? Just on the off chance. And what we did was we literally sent somebody on a flight with the dosimeter on so we could baseline it. And then anytime somebody's like, well, I got a dose. And it's like, yes, you got a dose greater than their reporting limit. You know, so like, yes, it is a recordable dose. It is 1/10 of a plane flight, which is 1/100th of an X-ray that you would get for your teeth. So like, you know, yeah, but so that is and also too, the atmosphere tends to scatter more of the shorter wavelengths, which is why we have a blue sky, and also why it tends to scatter X-rays as well. So do mostly UV and IR radiation make it through. So
IR, infrared, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep,
So
yep.
the X-rays way high end, infrared way low end.
Infrared is actually just below visible light.
Yes, it's infrared.
Yes. Well, the reason why you said like way low end is because below that is microwaves and below that is radio waves.
Yes, fair. Okay.
Yep. So it is lower, but not
lower
low,
than X-rays, but still other stuff below it.
Yeah, because then it's that, and then visible light, and then ultraviolet light, then X-rays, then gamma rays. And actually, one of the things that I was watching some TV show, and they were like, yes, they created a specific weapon that uses radiation, and the goal was to destroy the weapons of war, but not hurt the people, And so they're like, we created a weapon that will destroy all weapons of war, but won't hurt people. And thus war was stopped. And that was the magic that we needed in order to tell the story we wanted to tell. And I was like, that's cool. And I get that this is just like a placeholder for magic, but that would do the exact opposite. It would kill every living thing and leave all of the inanimate stuff there to use. That's why weapons like that are war crimes, because they're very convenient. Because if you bombard an area with radiation, then everybody dies, but all the infrastructure's in place, all the buildings are still in place, and that would obviously be the way to do it. So we have to say, don't do it that way because of horror. So, anyways, I say all that to say that, do you know what quality it is about gamma rays, X-rays, and interestingly, UVC radiation that makes it dangerous to living creatures?
Oh crap. It's okay, I'm pretty sure this is the wrong word, but is it ionizing?
You got it, man.
Yay.
I saw you were working hard on that one too. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, my forehead is sore from knitting my brows together.
So do you know what ionizing radiation is?
Yeah, it has to do with like it excites the atoms to a point where they can like do bad chemistry we would find bad, right? It's all chemistry is great chemistry. It's just we have decided it's bad chemistry.
It's not the chemistry we want it to do, like we have built a whole lot of blocks on these sand castles in the sand of we need this chemistry to work this exact way, and honestly 95% of the stuff that kills us, it's not like blunt force trauma, is things that where it's just like, hey, this also does chemistry. It's just not the chemistry you want it to do. And now we've got problems. But yeah, no, so specifically, so you got 99%, right? Is it excites it to the point where it ionizes it and it pops off an electron, right? So because it is now not, silver, it is now silver +1. It can do new stuff, right? But more specifically is that ionizing radiation, it damages DNA, and that's the kicker, right?
Right.
Now your DNA gets damaged all the time, right? As weird as that sounds, that's kind of the thing that eventually kills us, right? It's just like, hey, I'm going to make some skin cells. Hey, how come my skin's all wrinkly now? It's like, because I'm not as good at making it anymore. I've made this so many times. It is almost definitionally the copy of a copy of a copy of a copy, right? Eventually eventually towards the end of the road, things get weird. So I say all that to say that UVC radiation is actually ionizing radiation. Now, in general, it's not a problem because the vast majority of it is both blocked by the atmosphere. It's blocked to a degree by sunscreen. I think sunscreen mostly blocks UVA, UVB, which is why even when you're wearing sunscreen, is
that power levels? Like UVB is further on the electromagnetic spectrum than A and C is further than B, or are they different in some other way?
Less than. So C is the shortest wavelength, which has the most energy. So the closest to X-rays, then B is further away, A is further away.
So if you were looking at like the visible light spectrum, would UVA come right after violet, or
yes?
Okay, right. So A, then B, then C, then X-rays, then gamma.
Yeah, because when you said further down, I'm like, well, it depends on where you're at.
Yeah, which way are you counting?
Yeah. So it's like further down. I'm like, yeah, but Texas left, which is your down. Um, but yeah, so UVC actually can ionize. It is ionizing radiation, right? And so we have something that makes us much less susceptible to all types of radiation. Also to alpha decay, things like that. Like we have something that makes us more impervious to it than bacteria. And I think you could probably venture a guess as to what that is, but would you like to?
Is it the theater? No, surely you mean skin.
Yes, we have a really nice skin with some very inconvenient tubes that are put into it, which is how we mostly get sick. Which is, I don't know, like, I feel like sometimes I'll say stuff like that and people are like, what is wrong with you? And it's like, well, no, I mean, I'm not wrong. It's just, but anyways, so basically if we get bathed with UVC radiation, right? It's not wildly penetrating, it can, and if you get doused with it enough, it will penetrate down deep enough into your living cells, damage that DNA, and that's how you get skin cancer and things like that, right? Because your cells have a number of instructions, and some of them are like, hey, make exactly this many cells, and then when you turn that button off, it goes
make infinite cells, you say.
Yeah, it says just keep on making cells. And then actually the interesting thing too is that there are also qualities that like that your other cells will go through and check to make sure, like, hey, you're not making too many cells, right? And some cells can get corrupted to the point where they can also fake that that's still okay. And so then when your cells are like, you're not making too many cells, right? They're like, nah, man, we cool. You go away now. And then they make a bunch of cells. So the idea with ultraviolet radiation is that because the bacteria doesn't have that protective coating, you can then douse it with it. It damages the DNA, and the thing with DNA is that it works kind of like a computer in the sense that it works as well as a computer when you take a sledgehammer to it.
Mm-hmm.
So because the thing is that, and you could probably speak more to this than I could, there is a 1 in a trillion chance that if you hit a computer with a sledgehammer, it might work a little bit better, right?
I mean, I always hesitate to say anything's impossible, but sure, like,
yeah, right.
Yeah,
like
if we're talking infinite monkeys at infinite typewriters scale, then sure.
Yeah, exactly. And very similar with damage to DNA, where it's just like, could give you superpowers, right? Could have some type of an effect that is super beneficial, but the other 1 trillion times, it just damages it to the point where it doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work properly, right? And so normally it just damages the thing's DNA to the point where it just can't replicate anymore. And the problem with bacteria isn't a bacteria, it's billions of bacteria. That's the problem. So if you can make it that way, none of these bacteria can make more bacteria, then you're done, So I say all that to say, so why do people say it's the best disinfectant? Because people are dumb. It's not. But the reason why it is a good disinfectant, right, is because one, it's not amazing because it's not very aggressive, but to your point, right, is if it's just like, hey, I've got a smelly towel and I don't really know what to do with that. It's like, yeah, man, if you throw it out into the sunlight and you're okay with just it's sitting there for like a week, then eventually the sunlight will bathe it enough and the bacteria doesn't have enough like warm, dark places to hide in. It will eventually make it stop smelling, right? But and also more importantly is, unlike sulfuric acid and fire, it does not destroy the things that you are trying to clean, right? But to your point at the very top of the hour, which will bookmark this very nicely, is bleach also works. Like it's a much better disinfectant because it is way more aggressive. It is a liquid, which means that you can put it onto a cloth and then wipe almost anything down. Right. And it's way more thorough. So I think it's like a 2% bleach mixture is normally absolutely the way to go if you're trying to disinfect surfaces and things like that. And the final thing I'll say on this, and then I'll let you get a word in edgewise, is that the big thing with all of these is that we have been strictly talking about disinfecting inanimate objects, right? Or more specifically, non-living objects, right? All of these disinfectants damage living things, and that's the problem. So, for example, if you are currently infected, right? And people are like, oh man, have you tried thing A or thing B, man? It's a great disinfectant. It's like sulfuric acid, but I'm not going to drink a liter of it because that will absolutely kill all of the bacteria. It will also kill me. Just like I am now the car wax, and the bacteria is the fly. I need to just get that bacteria. And it is amazing to me in general in medicine how much of the things we use are just like attack everything, and we just hope the body survives it.
Yeah. I mean, that's what's the saying? It's like the cure is worse than the disease. Yeah. This is I appreciate that this is a saying that actually did a decent job of standing up to scientific scrutiny. Like clearly not the best, right? Like best, that's a superlative. Like, so that unscientific qualifier notwithstanding, the fact that sunlight is literally a disinfectant, right? It's not just like, oh, it makes things smell fresh because it's actually outside in the breeze and it has nothing to do with the sunlight. Like you could have a closed box and you could put a dirty towel in there, and if it was a glass box and the sunlight was shining through, it would disinfect the towel. Also, they would suffocate, but pretend there's enough oxygen in there for them to live for a while. But like,
well, unless they're anaerobic bacteria.
Yeah. But I like that the scientific definition of disinfectant and what people mean when they say the sunlight will disinfect this garment or the surface or whatever is actually true. Like that's this may be a first for these conversations.
Well, and actually, so I know that you and I played Borderlands 2 extensively, and you played it to some degree, right?
I played the second one a little bit. I think mostly with you. Weirdly, the one that I played the most was the pre-sequel.
Oh, nice. Also a good game. But the thing that I regularly think about is they had a lot of different types of grenades, and one of them, I think it was the Vladov, but at me if I'm wrong. Where basically instead of blowing up like a grenade, it basically became like a flamethrower. So you put it down, and it just worked like a kind of like a sprinkler, where it would just kind of like rotate and like blow fire, right? So it did
like a firework that the stick came off of, so it's just like spinning around violently.
Yeah, so the idea is that it does damage over time in an area as opposed to one giant amount of damage. That's the what they want you to use it for. What you can use it for, though, is when one of the not barbarians, the berserkers, the psychos, there we go, I got there. When one of the psychos comes running up to you, they just melee you, and obviously the point is that you're supposed to shoot them before they get that close. But if you're high enough level and you want to like remove see the sparkling hope die in their eyes as they're coming up to you and wailing on you, which is doing 1% damage to your shield, you drop a grenade in between the two of you and you just outlast them. It's just like, look, I'm taking a lot of damage from this, but you're going to drop first. And there's just something weird about like just sitting there and smiling at them as they're like, no, not like this. I say all that to say that that's like 80% of modern medicine, right? It's just like, we're going to sit there and burn this thing until it hopefully dies and you don't, So.
Yeah. Which seems like, oh, but bacteria are so small. Like that obviously you would outlast them. And it's like, well, bacteria are individual cells, which is what you're made of. You're just a lot of them. Like you're just a bunch of individual cells all in a big pile, but like you're not made of different stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And just for the record, I believe very heavily in modern medicine. Go see doctors, like listen to your doctor, all that kind of good stuff. But like a lot of the tools that we currently have at our disposal that are known to work, right, are ones where it is just like, hey, I've got this antibacterial. Oh, so it only kills bad bacteria? Nope. No. Kills them all. And it's like, oh, don't we like rely on some of the bacteria in our body? Yep. Hopefully there's enough of it. Let's do this thing. And just kind of go into it, right?
Ugh. Well, modern medicine notwithstanding, this does give me a lot of hope about some other colloquialisms I now want to ask you about.